on yet, are we?
Love Geary.
No, I'll just turn it on.
10 seconds.
Latin singer also has a 7-year-old son with his ex-wife Paula Patton. That's entertainment. Jennifer Bolsoni,
Wait,
NBC
what?
News Radio.
Dunc and Holder on a Tuesday, February 27th. Pelicans with another win, 6 in a row. Anthony Davis puts up half of a 100, and now, as the headline of our show on NOLA.com on the website, do you think that Anthony Davis is a legitimate MVP candidate? We're going to discuss that in detail today. If you want to get involved in the conversation, 504-260-1280 is the number. Jeff went and saw it firsthand last night in the Smoothie King Center. Granted, it was those uber competitive Phoenix Suns.
Clyde was right.
Uber competitive.
I was thinking about Clyde as they made the comeback. I thought
as the
Clyde is
made
going
the comeback?
He is going to sit over there in all of his glory if the Suns win this game. Thankfully, the Pelicans pulled through.
I agree.
And
I'm still sitting over here in glory because it still, technically, for the most part, was right.
how you were I'm not even going to get into that right now. I'm not even going to entertain that.
Don't even.
Yeah, let's not entertain the fact that we, as we said here at the last segment of the show, that regardless of the Phoenix Suns' record, they're still going to play like a decent enough team with quality players. Devin Booker played his tail off last night and met fans after the game was over, apparently. So shout out to him.
Well, he's a local guy, right? Local-ish. He was from Mississippi, Moss Point,
yeah.
so
Yeah,
local-ish. You can make the hour and 30-minute drive from Moss Point.
Absolutely. But clearly
yes.
they were good.
But clearly they're not that good. They've lost 10 in a row and they're the worst team in the NBA.
Anthony Davis had to score 53 points.
Well, that's actually true. So he had to score that many to get them involved. Had 3 of their bigs foul out just trying to defend him. That's something I don't think I've ever seen before in the NBA. But look, monster game from Anthony Davis. You were at the Smoothie King Center last night, Jeff. The chance of MVP raining down. I know you just put up a column at NOLA.com. And Anthony Davis has been remarkable without DeMarcus Cousins. Basically, since DeMarcus said, Anthony, it's time to take over, he's taken over.
Yeah, I don't know how legitimate his chances are of winning the MVP. It's mainly a popularity contest. It almost always seems to go to the best player on the team that has the best record or second best record, and the Pelicans are 34-26. They'd have to make some kind of remarkable run, I think, get to maybe the number 3 seed to even have a chance. I was trying to think of this last night, guys, and maybe y'all can help me on this. I don't think any New Orleans athlete has ever won the MVP in any major sport. Like, I don't think we ever had an NBA MVP or NFL MVP. So what he'd be trying to do is unprecedented, but the way he's playing right now, he's certainly making a strong case, and he's undoubtedly playing better than anybody in the NBA. The numbers are astronomical. What I wrote today was we've almost become numb to the numbers, just like we do with Drew Brees when he puts up these 400-yard passing games, and everybody just kind of yawns and you start taking it for granted. I think that's what's happening with Anthony Davis.
And you got to talk about the whole season being the MVP. And was Anthony Davis putting up big-time numbers before the injury of DeMarcus Cousins? Yes, but was it as regularly? No. And I think if you are judging that award, it's got to be over the 82-game season. And I'm almost wondering, and this probably isn't fair, but if DeMarcus Cousins was still there, would we be talking about Anthony Davis being a legitimate MVP candidate? I don't know, because DeMarcus Cousins would take some of the steam, and he's had these monster games as well. So it's almost like pick which side you want to be on. Regardless, they were getting it together when DeMarcus Cousins was on the court. Took a little dip for obvious reasons once he stepped off the court. Now they're putting it all together, 6 in a row. They're currently in the 5th spot in the Western Conference. They're slated above the Portland Trailblazers, even though they have the same record, and they are slated above 30, who's 35. No, let's see. The Spurs have won their last game. Minnesota's won their last two. So now they're in legitimate striking distance of either one of those teams. But, Jeff, as you always point out correctly, they're still 2 games from being out of the playoffs. So you need this surge from Anthony Davis and even Drew Holiday, who's been playing very well. I don't even know the string of 20-point games in a row he's had now.
Yeah, and Drew Holiday didn't even realize they'd moved up to 5th in the standings or whatever. He was kind of shocked at that. And I think the Pelicans' winning streak right now, I believe, is the longest since 2011, which is kind of amazing. It's the longest since AD has been on the team. He didn't even know that. And it's kind of come out of nowhere. They've won a bunch of overtime games. I mean, think about it, guys. I was looking at the standings this morning and looking at their winning streak. Remember the Brooklyn game where they almost squandered, was it a 33-point lead? Mm-hmm. And literally it was on the precipice of losing that game. I remember distinctly they ran a poor final second half-court set, and they didn't score, and it went to overtime, and AD was over on the bench kind of shaking his head. He looked very despondent and dispirited, and they pulled that game out in overtime, and they haven't lost since. But I think they were on the brink right there of maybe imploding because they'd lost 5 of 6, and they were getting ready to squander potentially the biggest lead in the history of the franchise. And they pulled it out, and now here they are.
Absolutely, here they are. And the Pelicans win 125-116 last night against the lowly Phoenix Suns. And it took a little while for the Pelicans to get going. We were talking about during the show yesterday that, and I even put it on Twitter around halftime, I saw this potentially as a trap game just because of the energy they had exerted against Milwaukee the day before. You're playing down to an opponent, and it looked like it in the first half, but you got to give Pelicans credit. They've been living dangerously. They've learned how to survive and win dangerously, even though the score looked bigger than what it was, 125-116. But that game, as the Pelicans uncharacteristically now are playing well in the third quarter, they outscore Phoenix 38-24 in the third quarter. But Phoenix kept it close, and the Pelicans had to make some big shots in the fourth quarter to kind of extend that lead and pick up the win.
And I'm wondering, we were talking before we went on the air. Look, it's a Monday night. It's not a sexy opponent. The Phoenix Suns lack star power other than Devin Booker. But, man, that was a small crowd. They announced the crowd at 14,000. It might have been 2/3 of that in actuality. And I'm wondering what it's going to take to get New Orleans on board. Are fans reticent, you think, because of the history of mediocrity, the lack of tradition and success? I don't know what it's going to take to get people out, because Anthony Davis is playing at a level that we've never seen in this city. I know there's old school fans that'll say Pistol Pete. They revere the halcyon days of Maravich, but he didn't put up numbers like this. No one has put up numbers like this, not Chris Paul, David West, no one in the history of the franchise. And it's incredible how well the team's playing around that. I think he has inspired his teammates and lit a fire into them, and now they're playing with confidence, and they feel like you said, Larry, I mean, they can get down 17, 20 points, and they feel like they can come back, and they've proven it.
And that's typically like Joe Average fan, me, even though I'm not really a fan, Joe Average, New Orleanian, I'd see them down 17 and I'd turn the thing off. Well, guess what? I'm not turning it off anymore because I've seen them make these surges. And you've seen earlier on in the season, even with Boogie, you would see them go down to a bad team and just lose to the bad team. You're starting to see, even when they're down, you see a confidence, even when at times, say, a Niko Mirotic isn't playing well, he's still defending and blocking shots and doing these things, and it helps. All these little things have helped. But, Jeff, to your point, why aren't fans still getting their butts in the seats? I think it goes hand in hand with the argument, why isn't Anthony Davis going to be a all the time talked about MVP candidate because they don't win enough. And that's it. They're number 2 in this market. They're always going to be number 2 in this market.
That's okay.
And that, 2 out of 2, I guess, is not bad. I mean,
there are larger cities than New Orleans that don't have an NBA franchise or have a really strong franchise other than maybe some bigger cities that have hockey or baseball or something. I mean, it's better that you have it than you don't. That's the thing that I think that's frustrating
I don't
about
think
New
there's
Orleans.
an argument there.
Yeah.
It's better than to have it than you don't. I'm just saying this is a Saints town. People invest their money in the Saints. If people have disposable income and they're sports fans, they're probably going to be more diehard Saints fans than Pelicans fans. And the fact that the Saints have been to the mountaintop, I think that matters. The fact that they get to the playoffs and win,
but
starting back again this year, I think that matters. They haven't won consistently enough. The last time the Pelicans made the playoffs, they barely scratched in, got bounced immediately, and the coach got fired. I mean, you've got to earn the fans back into the building. They're starting to, but we still haven't gotten to the playoffs yet. Like, it's still a tenuous place for the Pelicans because they're either 2 games from the 3rd seed or 2 games from being out, and you don't know where they are right now. You could be hot. You could be hot with them right now, but who knows? In a month, they might fall apart and miss the playoffs.
Shoot, we're talking about next month. They're playing the Spurs on Wednesday.
The next 4 games because they're on the road, even though they're against 3 of them are against teams they should beat.
Yeah, but I mean the biggest thing is that they're going to play the Spurs on Wednesday, and the Spurs are not number 3 in the Western Conference for nothing without Kawhi Leonard. So we're talking about a team that is still fantastically great, who I think it was brought up last night on the radio. I think the Spurs as a franchise has not gotten the love that they deserve for being a quality team and a quality franchise for over 20 years, winning as many titles as they have, sight unseen, without major superstars like a LeBron James or whatever. But I think the thing that we try to do specifically when it comes to the Pelicans, and which I think we have to stop doing partially, is that I think you're right. Without consistent trips to the playoffs and consistent winning seasons, I can understand the argument of the Pelicans not maybe necessarily having the fan base, but to put them up against the Saints, who have been around and have been an institution in the city for over 50 years, is an unfair placement. For the amount of time that the Pelicans have been in the city, which is close to now 17 years, to put them up against a team that has 50 years, that plays 16 games a year, 8 at home, two more if you count the preseason, and then has just recently won the Super Bowl. Let's not pretend that the Saints from the 1980s until the early 2000s was some juggernaut that was beating the team. They were struggling to put butts in the seats too.
But they were the only game.
But they were the only game in town.
And
they were still the same
They
thing.
were starting to win.
They were starting to, but it wasn't consistent.
No.
We're still talking about 7 to 9 years and 4 wins and 5 wins and 6 wins. So I don't think that's partially fair, but I do think that you do have a point. Is that at some point the Pelicans are going to have to do a better job of, or hopefully this is the start of them making the playoffs. But to your fan point, this is something that I retweeted from Bomani Jones from ESPN a few days ago about fans. The biggest problem with fans is we tell them they're entitled to a winner when the most they're owed is a good time. We act like a good time is only possible with a contender. Fix that, and we have a healthier culture around sports. And that, for me, highlights the largest problem around not just sports as a whole, but specifically towards sports, where people feel like the only way, collegiate number 1, and then the NBA, and then what we're talking about number 2, specifically that fans have the entitlement aspect of believing that the only way that they can go and watch and support a team is if they have a LeBron James, a Drew Brees, a Tom Brady, Alex Bregman, whatever. Like, that's the only way you can support a team. And that's not what sports is about. Sports is entertainment. You are going there to be entertained. You're going there to watch something. The fact that you have a winner or need to have a winner to enjoy it is the exact problem with sports and why.
Take a breath, dude. Take a breath. You're going to be all right?
Whew, yeah, I'm good.
Well, I'm going to revisit that.
They got to win.
Right.
Yeah, they have to win, but like, it's not just about the winning. You're going there to take part in an event.
It's kind of about the winning.
All right, let's take a break here because that's cute and fine in dreamland, but that's not reality. And in a perfect world where there's sunshines and rainbows, that's cool. But no, people aren't spending their money on losers. They'll be entertained with something else. They'll go to the movies. That's an entertainment, and they'll win it. So I think that's part of it. So we'll get into that conversation. We'll also hear from NFL Network draft guru Mike Mayock. He had a marathon conference call leading up to the NFL Scouting Combine. Lots of good tidbits. And he's got an eye on a certain quarterback that Jeff likes, maybe pegging them to the Saints. Well, Mike doesn't peg them, but one of his colleagues actually does in his latest mock draft. So we'll talk about that, and we'll get involved. Your phone calls 504-260-1280. LSU also responds to a certain Yahoo Sports article about basketball recruiting. We will touch on that as well. So come on back. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. We're Dunc and Holder.
Man. Soapbox.
Soapbox time.
Live
Soapbox.
weekday afternoons.
That was epic.
We're
talking with Marshawn Lattimore here of your
Almost
New Orleans
epic.
Saints. People are still heartbroken. I mean, it was a tough loss, and like we got to get over it eventually. But it's a little bittersweet.
Look, yeah, it is. But I feel like we're gonna be back. We're a young team, and we're getting better, throughout the whole year. So I know we're gonna step it up even more coming in next season. So I can't wait for it.
The Chris Cordy Show. Weekday afternoons 2 to 4 on Sports 1280. New Orleans.
Win your way to LA.
Are you kidding?
For our iHeartRadio Music Awards.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
See me, Ed Sheeran.
Love Ed Sheeran.
Maroon 5.
Love Maroon 5.
See me, Charlie Puth.
Camila Cabello. Cardi B.
Can't wait to see her.
Excited to see everybody.
While the world is watching, March 11th on TBS, TNT, and True TV, you'll be there.
I'm still in shock.
My heart is pounding.
This is unreal, man.
Keep listening for your next chance to win a trip to
A lot
our
of people hate on Blake
iHeartRadio
Bortles,
Music
man. I don't
Awards.
understand it.
For the love.
Because he's very mediocre.
He's okay at the quarter. Because he's okay at the quarterback position.
His ranking was
performance with Lucas Oil Stabilizer or fuel treatment
20th.
on sale for $9.99 at O'Reilly Auto
His
Parts.
numbers are
Increase
basically
oil
the same
life,
as Dak
eliminate
Prescott.
dry
No one's
starch,
running around
save gas
ripping on
and
Dak
reduce wear
Prescott.
with a 32-ounce
Well, Dak
bottle
Prescott
of Lucas
got
Oil
to the playoffs
Stabilizer or
last
fuel
year.
treatment at O'Reilly Auto
Blake
Parts.
Bortles
Better parts, better
No.
prices
went to
every
the
day.
damn
Limit
championship
supply
game.
at
Yeah,
your
he
store
played
for
like,
details.
what's he done the last few years?
I'm saying he's done as much as Dak Prescott.
Blake Bortles didn't get them to
Derek
the
Carr,
championship.
same numbers.
Bag. Aren't you checking out?
Blake Bortles was in the AFC Championship game.
That's also true.
Played well in the AFC Championship game.
Although did you see the story? Because I can't remember if it was ESPN or NFL Network saying basically that Blake Bortles got his deal. Now he has to prove that he's not a one-trick pony or something, or
No, that's
he's
what
like
I'm saying.
a medium quarterback or
I made
whatever.
the mistake of reading
Enjoy your corner of the world a little
Deadspin.
longer with
That's a
new
mistake.
Hilton Honors
Those
American
guys are
Express
idiots.
Business
That was it. Yeah, that was
Learn
it.
more at americanexpress.com/Hilton Honors. Terms apply.
iHeartRadio celebrates the contributions of African American artists.
Matter of fact, I
every
thought I
style
stopped
of music,
following
from
Deadspin
funk
on-
to jazz, blues to hip hop,
social media
and so
just for
much
that
more.
purpose.
Hear music from the artists that
and
inspired
Barstool are like the
generations
same
of musicians
entity.
and continue
Barstool.
to shape pop culture today. Aretha, Jay-Z, Michael, Marvin, Tupac, Diana Ross, and so many more. Listen to their special playlists or an iHeartRadio original station like Urban Pop Classics and Motown Sounds, providing the soundtrack to Black History Month all February.
A hectic NHL trade deadline in the books with some big names moving Monday. Now former Rangers captain Ryan McDonough heads to Tampa Bay. The Buffalo Sabres move winger Evander Kane west to San Jose. And all 31 players, 18 draft picks swapped before Monday's deadline.
Johnny
Meanwhile,
Jones is
on the
retired.
ice.
Oh, really?
NHL
Former
games
LSU
last
punter.
night
Hey, man,
highlighted by
he got his
a
ring and he's done.
shootout win over Montreal. In the NBA, Anthony Davis's
That's the
tear
way to do it,
continues.
man.
The Pelicans win their
Go out a winner?
Especially
Way
as long
down
as
to
he
the Suns.
played. Didn't
Yeah.
he play like
25,
17
He was the
years?
punter when I was at LSU.
Davis
Yeah.
dropped a season high.
Come on, really?
53
Yes.
points.
That's amazing.
Yes.
Around the rim.
30 seconds.
Yeah, seriously, he was the punter when I was at LSU.
The unibrow averaging north of 41 points,
Played under
15
Saban.
boards, and 3 blocks a
And
game
I
during
don't-
that
he
winning
might
streak.
have- I
Some
don't know if
good
he played
news
under
finally
DiNardo.
coming out for San Antonio Spurs.
might have, like, been
Kawhi
recruited by
Leonard.
DiNardo.
ESPN
Yeah.
reporting
It's about-
Leonard hopes to start working out with the team
Sounds
again
about
this
the same
week and play
timeline.
games by late March. Leonard's only played in 9 games this season due to a lingering quad.
All right, coming back.
Sports, Jake Corwin, NBC News Radio.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280. New Orleans.
Fiery first segment here on Dunc and Holder. Ow! Clyde wants everyone to be entertained, even if the Pelicans go 0-82, apparently.
That's not what I said.
That's what I heard.
That's not. Yeah, of course it's what you heard.
That's exactly what I heard.
Bandwagoner.
Idealistic over there.
Everyone should always be entertained by sports. If the team stinks, no one's paying money for them. I'm sorry.
Then we shouldn't have nearly most of the teams that we should have in any of the leagues, because not every team is going to win.
Well, some people pay their money because they're loyal to the team.
And how is that any different?
And well, I'm not saying. Well, they could do it. Doesn't mean it needs to be a sellout for if the team stinks.
Right. And I mean, I don't think there's an argument there or there's a conversation there. But not every team is going to win. Because if that was the case, I can tell you right now, the people in Cleveland should deserve way more than what they're getting.
I think fans understand, especially New Orleanians, that they're not always going to win. I think they just want to win some of the time. I mean, this franchise has won one playoff series.
Yes.
When did they move here? 2003?
2002.
Okay.
Yes.
One series. That's it.
And the state in the quote that I read from Twitter, there's a much longer piece. That's just a very small aspect of it. I don't think that the semantics of what we're talking about is where we're getting lost. It's not so much that we're not talking that fans don't have a right to want to have not only a quality team and a quality product on the floor. I think that there is a larger issue at play in terms of how we, specifically us individually, and I mean maybe not us the media, but fans themselves, want their team to project something that another team has, and we take it seriously than most. And I mean not seriously in a bad way, but we're literally just talking about that game last night. So let's specifically talk about that game last night. It's because a Phoenix Suns team that has 18 wins, that has lost now 10 straight. Okay? That was we watched that game. That was a quality game, right? The Pels won, right?
Oh, you still watch it, but there's a difference. And you know, people say, oh, if I buy a ticket, I have the right to scream and curse and do whatever I want. I don't like that form of, say, if you're angry at the team of the protest. If you're angry at the team and what they're doing, and if they keep losing and losing and losing, if I'm a consumer, my biggest protest is to stop buying tickets.
Yes.
So
that's fair.
I think part of it, and what we're seeing, is still fans don't want to buy tickets because they're protesting that the team has been so bad. And so when they get better and consistently better, it's a sense of approval for the team. That's not necessarily the way it is in every market. Like the Cubs sell out every year because they're lovable losers.
They're the Cubs.
There's a mystique.
The Red Sox. That's the same thing.
There's a mystique around that. There's no mystique, historical mystique around the Hornets/Pelicans franchise in this community. There is about the Saints. That's why it's a different feeling with that. And I think for the Pelicans, and spin it back to this season and specifically last night and this run they're going on, to get their butts in a seat on a Monday night, you've got to be consistently good and won 6 in a row. So in the short term, they've been consistently good, but they need to be playoff bound, at least competitive for multiple seasons, not just for 60 games right now.
Look, I gave up on this team when Cousins went down. I mean, I thought they were done. And they made a trade to get Nikola Mirotic that seemed like something that could buoy them, but they're really not getting a whole lot out of him. They're making this run largely on the strength of Anthony Davis, otherworldly performances each night, Drew Holiday being an all-star caliber guard, and then a bunch of role players kicking in, doing their part, but it's mainly a transcendent talent rising to the occasion and carrying a team night after night. I mean, these were back-to-back nights that he just played, and he played 40 minutes last night and fouled out, like you said, the entire Phoenix front line. I've never seen that before. They had 4 or 5 different players trying to guard him, and no one could guard him, and he's not making easy shots. Some of these shots he's making and I think we've become a take for granted just the ability to finish on these alley-oops. I mean, some of those are incredibly athletic plays, not only to finish, but also just to run the court to get there. You know, you got to have the want-to, as Les Miles would say, to get there, to get to the alley-oop to finish it. I mean, a lot of guys aren't going to run the court. So I think what we're seeing right now is pretty extraordinary, and I'm surprised that more people haven't jumped on board. But it might just come back to the fact that the overall team is not captured people's fancy. They've tried to buy in over the years and been disappointed, and they're kind of in a show-me mode.
I would agree. And just to put in perspective, Anthony Davis's line from last night, 16 of 29 from the field, 21 of 26 from the foul line. Obviously, it goes to the point where you got three bigs fouling out. They could not handle what Anthony Davis was bringing. 18 rebounds, 8 offensive rebounds, 10 defensive rebounds, 5 blocks, 3 assists, 1 steal, 53 points. But I think we have brought out the good mojo in a certain guy. See this little bobblehead doll that may resemble Stacey Augmon, but has an Emeka Okafor? Has an Emeka Okafor jersey? We busted that bad boy out in a Hornets uniform. Emeka Okafor on fire. 5 of 5, 4 for 5 from the free throw line, 14 points. Greatest game he's had in about 8 years.
At least.
And we talked to him about that.
He was
last
playing
night.
like he was playing back here when they were wearing the Creole blue.
When he was winning national championships in the Dome for UConn.
Well, you forget, like, the one thing that I would say about getting him off the street the way they did is he's got, if you can have fresh legs at age 35, he's got them.
Yeah.
I mean, he came in and he's playing great. And we spoke to him. Brett Martell, the AP, and I were talking to him after the game and asking him if his performance validated all the hard work he put in to get back. And he didn't care about the 14 points at all. His whole point is, look, I'm here to contribute, block shots, rebound, whatever, play defense. He doesn't care about the points. That's just kind of ancillary lagniappe for him. So it just shows you the attitude he has and the understanding of his role on this team. And what he's doing is pretty remarkable. You're right. He gets overshadowed in AD's brilliance. Let me go.
Of course he's going to get overshadowed.
Well, let me put these things in perspective real quick, because I know some people probably have read this, but just overall, AD's performance, the 50 points, 15 rebounds, 5 blocks, has only happened twice in NBA history that someone's put up that line since they started recording block shots in 73, 74. Bob McAdoo did it in 75, so it hadn't happened at all since 1975. And then his 40-point, 10-rebound night was the 5th in the month of February, and that's never been done in a month in the history of the NBA. So, I mean, what we're seeing right now is unprecedented, and I can't believe more people aren't going out and talking about it.
And you were asking Anthony Davis after the game about the comparisons statistically with Wilt Chamberlain and Larry Bird, and he's kind of just like, oh, shucks, I got to do what I've got to do so we can win games. He's not even looking at that because he's so kind of in the moment, and you need him to be in the moment because if Anthony Davis scores 35 last night, they lose. And 35 is like a ridiculous game.
Yeah. No, he knows he's doing what he has to do. He's doing it because he must do it, not because he wants to. And that's what I made my point in my column is he lets the game come to him more than most of these players that are superstars, the James Hardens, the Russell Westbrook, where the offense is flowing through them, through LeBron.
Yes.
He has to kind of, by virtue of him being a big man, has to kind of let the game come to him. They do a lot of two-man games with Drew Holiday, but nevertheless, it's more difficult for him, I think.
I would agree. And he doesn't come to the spotlight. Now the spotlight's coming to him. Absolutely. And deserves it. So we'll continue this conversation. Talk NFL Scouting Combine. Here you'll hear from NFL Network's Mike Mayock from his conference call yesterday. Some great insight on some prospects that will be all over the map in Indianapolis. Our crew's heading up to Indianapolis today. Josh Katzenstein and Herbie Teope for all the coverage of the Combine. So we'll talk about that. LSU Hoops. They've responded to the supposed potential, who knows, recruiting issues. We'll touch on that as well. So come on back. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Dunk it older.
What was that?
I heard that.
I didn't hear
There
it.
you go.
He did. He played.
Are you not entertained?
Yes, I couldn't get to last tail and I was like, wait, what was that?
Today,
Yeah, I potted the music up too high.
slim chance of rain at 20%. High temp in the upper 70s. Now tonight, overnight lows, a little bit warmer and muggy, mid to upper 60s. And tomorrow for Wednesday should be a dry day, but much warmer. High of 84. Thursday, slight chance of rain at 30% with the front in the upper 70s. And then we cool down for Friday with more sunshine.
Jonathan
coming
Giles is going to wear
From the
number
Fox 8
7.
Weather Center, I'm Evie Rollins. meteorologist Bruce Katz with your weather authority forecast.
Hop over
Yeah,
to
from Texas
Woodstock
Tech.
Shopping Center on March 3rd
So he's
as
as
we
good
welcome
as
the
Patrick
Easter Bunny
Peterson
with
on
a
all
second
those
line
cats.
parade at
Well,
9:45
I think
a.m.
according to
Kids
some of the
activities,
former
scrolling
Sevens who have
characters,
warned
and
that
more from 10 a.m.
they're
until
not
noon.
happy
For
with
more
it.
info, visit
I've never even heard of this
mixoutshopping.com
guy.
or visit us on Facebook.
Shouldn't he get the other number?
Yeah, oh yeah, you want to give him 18?
Yeah,
You want to give
that
him
number.
18 for?
With great New Year deals.
I'd be like, oh, okay.
Oh yeah, 18. So clearly he's a role model both on and off the field. He's able to lead his teammates, things like that.
Not like he's not Leonard Fournette
Or DJ Chark, or Patrick Peterson, or Turan. Although Ed did say, apparently, Ed did say something to, I guess, either Delger or somebody, that he was the toughest player to guard in practice. So
This tax
clearly,
season,
no
AutoZone
faults.
has everything your car needs.
Clearly,
Free battery
best on the
testing.
team.
Now you can stop the second guessing and
they should have
finally
just
start
given
your
it
car
to,
with confidence. Whether it's just a
Miles
loose cable
Brennan.
or time for a new one, AutoZone will test your battery right on the spot, free of charge.
How
And
funny
right
would
now,
that
get a
have been?
$10 AutoZone gift card
Dude,
by
people would be
mail
going
when you buy
bonkers.
2 Bosch Envision wiper blades. Visit any of our 5,000 locations nationwide, and let's get you what
Yeah,
you
we
need.
haven't even gone through half the
Restrictions and details in store.
1 minute.
Details about an upgraded
Hey,
iPhone
Jeff's already on
taken out.
P break
Bloomberg
number
says
2.
Apple
We're
Yeah.
37 minutes into the show.
Yeah, he must have had some
largest iPhone
had some of that good water this morning.
Yes,
iPhone 10 and a less
Maybe he's on an or maybe he's on a diuretic. We don't know about it.
appeal to the growth.
Also true.
He's on a cleanse.
I don't want to know about that though.
Cleanse. Cleanse.
Also offering more affordable
I'm on that new kale cleanse right now. Nothing but kale.
4K version with 30
Kale in a blender.
Kale.
That's
Kale in a can. Kale in a blender.
You need a
all
sneaky
you have to do
leaker.
is sign up for 3.
We're not going to be in the studio much longer. Just
Yeah,
listen.
and we're not even have a third of the stuff apparently too. So you know,
Surprise, surprise, focus on the battery. The
we're gonna have three chairs and a folding table.
will last up to
Sounds like
5 days.
we're gonna
on
be like
one
on lawn
charge.
chairs, like a
Mashable
estate
says the phone
sale.
is on the thick side, but does have high resolution, dual cameras, and a fingerprint sensor. Tech Report, Larry Olson, NBC News Radio.
Learn what our insiders know about your home teams. Sports 1280 New Orleans.
A little bit of breaking news here on the show. Not normally would we announce the retirement of a punter, especially from a team that's not the New Orleans Saints. But former LSU punter Donnie Jones has just announced his retirement. He is walking out on top. Of course, he was the punter for the Philadelphia Eagles, winning the Super Bowl. And I think he was punting when I was at LSU in college. That's how long he's been in the league. And yet, what am I, 38? That's not that old. That's not that old. You got punters who usually like 73 still punting out there. I mean, Morton Anderson lasted, 10 years after that, I feel like. So, but Donnie Jones going out on top, winning the Super Bowl, retiring from the NFL. And Jeff, yeah.
That's the way to do it, right?
That's the way to do it. Go out on top, right?
Win a Super Bowl ring and ease off into retirement. He's made, I'm sure, plenty of money. And he goes out. You're never going to duplicate that, I don't think. I don't think they're going to win back-to-back Super Bowls. Do you? Philadelphia, though, I tell you, I have been impressed. Did you all happen to read, was it the Monday Morning Quarterback deep dive that Peter King took with Doug Peterson and his staff, Frank Reich, and I remember the receivers coach, Mike. Anyway, point is,
Mike.
Their offensive coaching staff, the level of preparation that they put in, the attention to detail, very eye-opening. I don't think that organization's going away anytime soon. The way they're coaching right now, they put in plays specifically for the Super Bowl. They knew, because they had such respect for the Patriots, they knew that they would look at all the game film and come up with everything that they've ever run. So they put in all these new wrinkles. It wasn't completely new plays. It was just wrinkles within the plays they were already running. So it would give Philadelphia, New England looks that they weren't used to. In particular, the game-winning touchdown by Zach Ertz came on a alignment and motion that they'd never run before ever, and it threw the Patriots off and led to a touchdown.
Well, maybe not totally along those lines, but as far as the team that the Eagles played in the NFC title game, You've already heard, and we talked about a little bit yesterday, how Case Keenum, it sounds like he's going to be hitting free agency. Also, according to several reports that I read this morning, it sounds like Teddy Bridgewater is going to be hitting free agency, and that gives all the credence in the world to what, Jeff, you brought up yesterday from Gil Brandt, that they may be going after the biggest quarterback fish in the sea in free agency as far as up in Minnesota.
Doesn't that seem to make sense for the Kirk Cousins and Mike Zimmer to reunite a little bit? I think they have a history together. And then there's also, I think, it makes a lot of sense that Kirk Cousins would go to a team like Minnesota that's prepared to maybe win a Super Bowl as opposed to going somewhere like Cleveland that's years away.
My question is, how much better is Kirk Cousins than Case Keenum? I don't know if there's that big of a leap. I don't know how much money Case Keenum's going to get on the open market. I know Kirk Cousins is going to get the most. How much better is Kirk Cousins compared to Case Keenum? If I'm the Vikings, I think I need to seriously consider that question, unless they're already all in and blinded by the Kirk Cousins hype. I don't know.
I mean, Cousins kind of reminds me a little bit of Cam Newton when I watch him play. He can make 3 or 4 throws in a game that just blow your mind and kind of open your eyes, and you say, wow, that guy's really good. But then he also can kind of disappear, make some bad throws. So I'm not on the Kirk Cousins bandwagon. I'm a little curious why Washington would let him walk if he's so good. Why they let him walk? It's not like they're not paying a quarterback. They're paying Alex Smith a lot of money. Maybe not $30 million a year. That's what we assume Kirk Cousins is going to get. But the Vikings have cap room. They're right on the doorstep of winning a Super Bowl. They're going for it.
They're certainly going for it. But I think you're right too, Jeff. Washington, look, they're not known as being the brain trust of the NFL. They've made plenty of boneheaded moves in free agency and acquisitions and such. But if they're letting him walk, and they've had all of this acrimony around Kirk Cousins, something might be there to where he's may not be as good as we thought. And yet, let me just kind of reverse course here. How good, even before he was damaged, I'm going to talk Drew Brees. Compare Drew Brees maybe to Kirk Cousins. Would they maybe been on the same level, kind of middle of the pack, when Drew hit free agency and people weren't willing to take a risk on him, and Kirk Cousins, because he's in free agency, they're going to go all in? Maybe people would have gone more all in on Drew Brees if he wasn't hurt, but I almost feel like they were on the same level. Was Kirk Cousins maybe made the Pro Bowl once?
Right.
Something like that.
Well, does Nick Foles, what he did with the Eagles and what Case Keenum did with the Vikings, does it change people's perception of the league, and that the conventional wisdom is you have to have an elite quarterback to win the Super Bowl? That was disproven this year, certainly. I don't think anybody would call Nick Foles elite. I think he's a good quarterback, and I think Case Keenum is a good quarterback. But do you have to have an elite one? Let's face it, the Vikings beat the Saints on a miracle. I mean, a miracle. They don't win that game 99 times out of 100. They lose.
The Saints have one of the best quarterbacks, and that's who got them in position to win it.
Exactly. I mean, we would be talking about the fact that the Saints won that game because they had a better quarterback. Because let's face it, once the Vikings got that lead, they kind of put it on ice and tried to milk it. Keenum threw a egregious interception that kind of started the ball rolling a little bit, and really didn't make a whole lot of plays down the stretch. Now, he made a great pass on that last drive. I mean, it was actually a very good pass, and maybe they win the game if the ball just gets. I mean, Stephon Diggs gets knocked out of bounds.
If he catches it and knocks out of bounds,
maybe they win the game.
All I know is they won. It's
right.
At this point,
we can parse it all we want. But the point is, I'm not sure if it changes how people feel, especially the Vikings, or maybe the Vikings just feel like none of their quarterback options are that appetizing to them, and the best guy they can get is Kirk Cousins. They don't really want to go draft a quarterback and have to go through that process.
And Sam Bradford's still lingering around. So they've got 3 quarterbacks. Remember the old adage, if you got 2 quarterbacks, you've got none. Well, what if you have 3 of them? What do? You end it all by unloading everyone and getting Kirk Cousins, who has been a proven starter in the league. Let's be honest, Case Keenum, first year as a starter. Could he fall off the map? Yes. Do you know what you have with Teddy Bridgewater with the injury, and you've seen him a little bit? Do you think he can carry you to the promised land? Obviously, probably not. So Kirk Cousins has been starting for years. You get him around some weapons and a good defense and a team on the cusp, Minnesota probably feels really good about it.
When I read that Eagles story and MMQB, what struck me in that story, the way Doug Peterson's offense is set up, and I think it's probably very similar to the way the Saints run with Breeze. I don't think necessarily you have to have this elite quarterback arm talent and all the things that we always talk about with a quarterback. What you need is someone very smart that can think quickly and read defenses, and there's so much involved in the offense with the motions and the alignments that basically it puts the quarterback in position to always almost have an open guy if he knows which guy to go to through the progression, through the pre-snap adjustments that he makes, the way Breeze does. It was fascinating to me to see the level of detail, that the NFL is now at offensively, and it almost feels like the defenses are always going to be kind of on their heels because the offense is almost dictating things now.
Yeah, interesting. I'm curious to see what happens as the Combine is going to get cranked up really tomorrow. Everybody's kind of heading up there today, and we're going to catch up with Josh Katzenstein and Herbie Teope. Oh, by the way, on NOLA.com, Josh Katzenstein has a great breakdown of what needs to happen with the Drew Brees contract. Make sure you go check that out at NOLA.com. Kind of gives you a primer. And actually, I'm going to be writing today, and it'll probably hit the website tomorrow, how the Saints need to figure out that Drew Brees deal before they know what they can actually do going forward, because you need to know how much money you have in your hand to play with as far as your own free agents, and you're looking at the other markets. So check all that out probably tomorrow morning at NOLA.com. So, all right, let's take a break right here on the show. When we get back, we'll be talking more NFL Combine. Don't forget, you're going to hear from Mike Mayock, his conference call yesterday with reporters. Marathon. He spoke for 108 minutes. I picked out some of the more interesting tidbits as far as linebackers, wide receivers, and then our own Herbie Teope got in a question about tight ends, which I know everyone's going to be intrigued about, so you hear from that. And what's the latest up in Baton Rouge with LSU basketball? They have responded to the report from Yahoo about possible irregularities within basketball recruiting. We'll touch on that as well. So coming back, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app, Dunc and Holder.
Josh Innes is moving to mornings.
I am.
We've ordered some extra strong coffee and took away his Bailey's Irish Cream. Josh Innes, morning 6 to 10.
You get the point on Sports 1280.
New Orleans.
All right, what do y'all want to talk about
the
next?
easy-to-use app for music
Because I can hold Mayock to hour 2 because I can eat up some.
Just say, oh, here we go. Darius Rucker. Just type in Darius Rucker.
Darius Rucker!
Darius Rucker.
You can type in Hootie because he's actually Darius Rucker.
And you'd get a different musical genre.
But it'd be the same voice.
Different musical genre.
That's pretty close.
It's not that close. Just because he plays an acoustic guitar. He can't play an electric guitar, though, very well.
Darius didn't have to venture too far away from Hootie land.
As crazy as it sounds, that's true. That's very true.
It's kind of
that's actually very true. There are definitely some songs that where you're like, okay,
well,
yeah.
How about this? Hootie is the gateway drug to country.
Oh, I like that. That's got a nice ring to it. Write the article. Get it done.
Write the article. Get it done.
Hootie is the gateway drug.
It's a gateway drug. Of all the people that can be gateway drug to country.
Eric Asher blew up my phone this weekend. He's like, God damn you, DeCorbier. He's like, I've been listening to country all weekend long. I took my 6-mile walk, and all I listened to was country. He's like, I hate you. I'm like, you're welcome.
It's good to hear from you too, bud.
Yeah, right. Apparently, like he's never been a country fan, even back when he worked for NOE. He's like, I don't know how you got me hooked.
I'd say the same thing. I listen to country more than ever, and it's because
of country fried Friday.
Because of all of this, I swear.
Stacks of wax mounds of sound. I'm trying to get you down.
Well, it depends on how.
No, but Hootie is like candy cigarettes, and that gets you smoking.
So you're telling me you're a teenager that you're like, oh, this is fine. Then you become an adult and you're like, oh no, this is what I really want to do.
Exactly.
The breach exposed the personal information of some 145 million Americans.
I don't know what
the
just
poll
happened
indicates 18%.
No, depending on how long you want to talk
never
about
checked their
LSU, I
credit
guess
score.
LSU would probably be better to close out, and then you can go in hour one, and then, or at least that first segment, because you have 20 minutes to like do the Mayock stuff.
NBC News
It's gonna take longer than that.
So like that first two, then.
Yeah, we gotta spread out the sound.
In a Facebook posting, Instant Pot says it has received a small
Thanks,
number
Clyde.
of reports.
You're welcome. That's what I did.
One multi-cookers overheating.
Just here to help.
The company says that can result in localized melting damage to the underside of the product. Instant Pot isn't it?
20 seconds.
Working cooperatively.
I can tell you who's really going to win the NBA MVP.
Consumer and Business News. Joe
James
McConnell,
James
NBC
Harden.
News Radio.
Yes.
James Harden 1, LeBron 2, Steph Curry 3.
Lung cancer. She didn't have many choices.
I mean, if the Pelicans won 50 games,
If
he'd
you've
be
been diagnosed with lung cancer,
Yeah, he's probably going to still get some votes, like maybe like
lung
fourth or
James
maybe
Harden
fifth.
could win it.
James
Oh
Harden.
yeah, it's like not even a race.
Oh yeah.
Although Donovan Mitchell probably should get some consideration.
This is Duncan Holder.
He didn't play very well last
1280 New Orleans.
Welcome back to the show. You missed any of hour one. Sports1280.com, NOLA.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube page. And also some, I'm sure, from hour one, Clyde's going to put up some fiery conversation about the Pels.
Yes.
But some good debate, honestly.
Great conversation.
Because that's what people, when you're talking about getting butts in the stands and such, I mean, these are the debates that people have, whether it's with their friends. Of course, Maximus is entertained as well, as he's chopping people's heads off. I don't know what's going on here.
Yes.
Why is he
we're
bringing
gonna
me
talk
back?
LSU. What
Why is
happened?
he bringing me back to medieval times? Well, I don't know. Figuratively, LSU might want to take a swing at Pete Thamel. They don't totally agree with his reporting on this subject as far as...
I disagree with that. I mean, I think what they're saying is semantics.
Okay.
They're saying that the NCAA is...
Yeah,
when the
people are not
NCAA
happy with you, Jeff, yesterday, and happy with us with our posting of the NCAA stuff around Will Wade.
Oh, I didn't know that. I'm not shocked that that would come out. The NCAA, when they investigate a program, it's a formal process. They send a letter to the institution, and it is a formal investigation. They announce it. It's not something that is done surreptitiously. They're not investigating on the sly. What Pete Thamel did not report that they were investigating, like formal investigation. He said they're looking into the tactics that he's done. I don't think there's any doubt. Are people doubting that what he wrote is not true? I can guarantee you it's true. Guarantee you. I know Pete Thamel very well. I know who his sources are. And trust me, he's not going to put something out there that's not true. So what we're getting involved in here is the semantics. Joe Oliva comes out and says, we have not received anything. Of course they haven't received a formal investigation. That's not what Pete Thamel reported. He said they're looking into his tactics, into Will Wade's recruiting tactics. So what's the point?
Let me spell out what Will Wade said yesterday in a press conference about the Yahoo Sports report, indicating that the NCAA was looking into his recruiting tactics. He says, quote, "The facts are there have been zero inquiries. There's been zero contact by the NCAA to me, my staff, my players, or administration, or our school. There's been zero inquiries or contact by the NCAA." And also saying that, well, never mind, that's a quote from the story. But yeah, that basically they're saying there's nothing here, no one's contacted them, this and that. But Jeff, well, here's another quote. Let me read it from, and this is from our own Andrew Lopez, historian, NOLA.com, saying, quote, "I'm very proud to represent LSU, very proud to represent Louisiana, going to continue to work extremely hard to bring a top-tier national championship caliber basketball program to our state and to our school. We're excited about what lies ahead here at LSU for our staff and our players." But people have attacked Pete Thamel before in reporting, and some things he's done in the past, this, that, and the other. And I do find it curious that, all right, no one's attacking him for this big investigative reporting into the grand scope of college basketball. You use the same sort of I wouldn't say evidence, but the same sort of reporting, and you don't change your ethics from one reporting to another. That's kind of where I'm coming from here.
It's silly, man. This is stupid. People don't like it because they're fans of LSU. That's all. It's plain and simple. You don't like the message, shoot the messenger. It's centuries old, this tactic. Centuries old.
Has that happened in a certain other thing that happened here maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, where they were shooting messengers when we were reporting the bounty scandal?
I'd say yes. It happens everywhere. It happens in politics. It happens. It's part of the news business. It's just part of the deal. I don't understand what people think. I don't know if it's the Trump factor that's playing in here. People now always think media has an agenda, and it's they only think that when it involves something they don't want to hear. A lot of fans. I think a lot of fans understand also that the level of reporting that people do, and I can tell you without question, Pete Thamel's not putting something out there making it up out of thin air. It does not happen.
I think there's another criticism I've heard that's out there on the report is basically that why put it out there if there is not been some formal investigation, that they're just snooping around and that there hasn't been enough evidence to even really start one. I think that's the criticism that I've read.
I can live with that. I can live with that criticism more than I can live with somebody thinking
you're just picking on
made
us.
It up.
Yeah, you're just picking on us because we're winning and we have a decent team this year, and you guys are making it seem like we're involved in stuff. And that was going to be my question to y'all, is that clearly the NCAA, it makes you wonder if the NCAA has like worked with the FBI to say, look, obviously with college basketball being in its waning moments of the regular season, about to go into the NCAA tournament, which is the biggest moneymaker for the NCAA of any of their sports, saying, hey, look, give us to the end of the season, and then as soon as the season's over, hey, man, bombs over Baghdad, wherever you want, just like that's when a lot of the explosive stuff is going to start coming out.
Just go back and look at how Ole Miss fans responded to the numerous reports.
Yeah, they were not happy.
I know Pat Forty reported at length on Ole Miss being looked at by the NCAA. I saw the reaction from Ole Miss fans, and how'd that play out? It's
early in Ole Miss.
Dropping the mic.
Early in the process. It's early in the process. We'll see how it plays out.
All right. Hour number 1 is up. Hour number 2 is on the way. Hour number 2, we're going to jump pretty significantly into the NFL, the Saints, the NFL scouting combine. Got plenty of good insight. Managed to pull some lengthy sound bites from NFL Network draft guru Mike Mayock. And I think that's something you want to hear. So come on back for it. Hour number 2 here. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
I'm glad we cut.
Actor Kevin.
Man, I zoned out.
I'm glad we cut. Like we didn't hear you. We were like, all right, it's getting the 10.
No, I saw 58.
Yeah, I was like, we're done.
I was just staring off into space. I don't know what the hell I was doing.
He got sick.
I have no defense.
Glendale, California, Sunday night, and said if he hadn't canceled the second one and sought medical.
And you say we're unruly.
Yeah. All right,
Smith
so
tweeted that the doctor who
Graf
saved his
has
life told him his LAD
baseball
artery,
tickets
the
that
so-called
he has
was
2 pairs of
100%
baseball
blocked.
tickets tonight.
Smith wrote and
he's
directed
willing to
the
give
movies
away.
Chasing Amy and Mallrats.
Do we want to do
Eating
that?
veggies,
And he could.
maybe.
They could just pick them up at
if he
will
wants,
call.
because we got baseball tickets to give away too. I'm not sure which ones we got right now because we donated a bunch for the St. Jude's Radiothon, so I'm not exactly sure what our actual number of tickets is. But yeah, we're gonna start giving away Tulane baseball tickets for the rest of the season.
All right, why don't we do it today?
That'd be good.
Yeah. I'll do it at the top of the hour, and it's just basically you call in, you can win a pair of tickets. So if we can give away 2 pairs of tickets to tonight's game, and your name will be left at will call at Turkey. So you just give me the names who win, and then I'll
forward it to Graf.
Yeah.
All right, that's cool.
Cool. All right.
Clearinghouse going on at Minnesota.
Yeah, I got to work the board for tonight's women's game.
Oh yeah.
I mean the coaches show. Sorry, the coaches.
Let's say the women played last night.
Will likely be a free agent. Several reports say Minnesota is interested instead in getting a deal done with Kirk Cousins. Meanwhile, USC quarterback Sam Darnold won't be throwing at the NFL Combine. Adam Schefter breaking that news. He will participate in the other athletic testing and interviews taking place at Indianapolis. He'll instead wait and throw at USC's Pro Day in mid-March. Baseball news, Mariners ace Felix Hernandez will be reevaluated today after taking a line drive to his right forearm during Monday's spring training game. The good news, the x-rays were negative. And the USGA announced they're getting rid of the U.S. Open's playoff format, which was an 18-hole Monday playoff. Instead, they'll have a 2-hole playoff if players are tied after 72 holes. I'm Deb Carson.
We are this tax season.
All right, 4.5 minutes.
Everything your car needs, like the free Fix Finder tool. When your check engine light comes on, get it checked out at AutoZone. Whether it's small or serious, you can troubleshoot the real problem free of charge, so you can get it fixed right the first time. And power through the dark this winter by upgrading to brighter headlights. You can boost your visibility and your safety. Visit any of our 5,000 locations nationwide and let's get you what you need.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Attention all authors. Page Publishing is looking for authors. Have you read Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, Apple iTunes, and other outlets. They handle all aspects of the publishing process for you. Printing, cover art, publicity, copyright, and editing. Call 800-501-3689 now for your free author submission kit. That's 800-501-3689 for your free author submission kit. Again, 800-501-3689.
By the time that we got up there, his room was filled with smoke.
The wind had blown and drifted the snow up against the side of my
don't name
house,
her.
blocking the exhaust from my furnace.
Dang it!
I heard the smoke alarm going off in my friend's apartment.
I have to go home, y'all.
The kid is smoke alarm. My son would not be here today.
And had it not been for that carbon monoxide detector, they would come to school and not have their teacher there.
I grabbed my fire extinguisher and put out the fire.
It makes technology that saves lives.
Drinking natty lights again.
Oh, absolutely. Among many
Austin
things,
Seafood and Steakhouse from fresh Louisiana
Because
seafood.
old habits die
hard.
hard.
And delectable
Old habits die
Austin's
hard. Or
offers
they
an
don't die.
extensive wide list and a fully stocked bar located at 5101 West Esplanade. Casual upscale dining in the heart of Maryland.
I can't
Serving
help but
dinner
laugh
Monday
at
through
this
Saturday from 5
commercial.
to 10 p.m.
Ah,
Every next event
worst.
with Austin's. Banquets, luncheons, or rehearsal dinners. For
Hey,
reservations,
Carly, no
please
one
call
cares.
5533. Austin's, a true dining experience.
that crawfish cream sauce all over my head. All over my
7
chest.
days a week.
Oh,
Clyde.
A federal appeals court is giving the Federal Trade Commission more power to regulate internet service providers. The Ninth Circuit has ruled the FTC does have the authority to sue AT&T for slowing customers' wireless data speeds. The commission alleges subscribers were misled because they thought they bought unlimited plans. Are you seeing big benefits from the tax cut bill? President Trump says you are.
Everybody's going to get a lot more income.
Uh-oh.
And we've seen that as of February 1st. Everyone's saying, wow, I have an
That's
extra
okay. We're still funny and happy.
$250 in my paycheck. And that's pretty good stuff.
The Tax Policy Center estimates the average tax savings per paycheck for all households in 2018 is $50.
So wait, where
5
is
times
this? Where is
less
this?
than
I'm
the
getting.
president's
Where
example.
was I getting
And counting
grief?
middle
Why was I
income
getting
households
grief?
No. Larry tweeted at somebody yesterday who apparently said, I was listening to local radio today, and
big Equifax hack?
shoot, I have to go find it. I was listening to
So
local radio
one
today.
person says it. Well, that's everybody.
That's everybody.
One person. That's the problem, man. That's
Americans.
if I had to summarize the problem with all this, you get one person saying something. Everybody.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, he said thanks for listening.
And then we overreact to one person or two people.
In the last 6 months. That's all very disturbing to industry analysts since the breach exposed the personal information of some 145 million Americans. The poll indicates 18% of adults have never checked their credit
the fact that it was
score.
listed
The
but
report
this guy
says
is
young
also
adults
apparently
and
some
people
jabroni
with
who's
lower
on
incomes are the
100.3
least
though.
likely to have
The ESPN
examined their
station is like,
credit.
really?
One person.
NBC
Really?
News Radio.
And Instant Pot
Friggin'
is in
losers.
hot water over reports of melted multi-cookers. In a Facebook posting, Instant Pot says it has
Sophia
received
Bush
a
is
small
gonna be at
number of
Collision.
reports.
Don't-
of
wait,
the
don't
two
treat it.
What is
multi-cookers
Collision?
overheating.
It's like this tech
The company says that can result in
conference that comes
localized
here every
melting
year.
damage to the underside
Last
of the
year,
product.
it's where I did a
Instant
column
Pot
on
isn't
Marcus
issuing a
Colston
recall
being
yet,
like
but
Oh,
it's
yeah.
cooperatively
Right.
with the U.S. Consumer.
Wait, what is that?
Collision. It's like
Consumer
this
Big
tech
Tech
conference.
Conference.
Wasn't it 2 years ago when Goodell was there?
Yeah, we're here every year.
Loving me so much for taking me to the doctor.
When is it?
Usually in March, I think.
I just got an email about it.
Yeah, right now it's the American
April
Association.
30th through May 3rd.
Yeah, right now they're getting ready for the American Association of Orthopedic Professionals.
Yeah, that's not what I.
Roles change without a
I'm just letting you know because I drove by it this morning when I was coming to the office. There's a big banner.
All right, almost done. 5 seconds.
/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Dunc and Holder, hour number 2 on a Tuesday, February 27th. Larry Holder, Jeff Duncan, Clyde Verdan at our NOLA.com Times-Picayune studios. Dave DeCourbier back at iHeart Central. And switching gears from hour number 1, had a lot of Pelicans talk. A little LSU basketball, quote-unquote, scandal. Maybe, not really. Who knows? We'll see what happens. Talk. But switching gears here, NFL Scouting Combine. It is the who's who of NFL player personnel, coaching, GM, and college prospects world up in Indianapolis. We will have blanket coverage here at NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. You'll also hear from Josh Katzenstein and Herbie Teope as they're traveling up there now. We'll catch up with them later on in a week, just kind of get the comings and goings. And just to put it in perspective, as far as it's not just about the prospects. Last year at this point was when the Brandon Cooks trades rumors all began hot and heavy. I mean, we almost assumed that a Cooks trade could go down while they were in Indianapolis. And, of course, trades are not official until the start of the new league year. Because it's not exactly like Marcus Peters has officially been traded, but everybody knows it's in the works. You could talk about it. It's not some big collusion thing that's going on. But this is the time of the year when GMs, coaches sit down with agents. I teased it earlier in the show. I'll tease it again. Go check out Josh Katzenstein's piece at NOLA.com on what to expect from the Drew Brees contract negotiations. I'm sure Tom Condon and the Saints will sit down and meet and start trying to hammer these things out, and then maybe some of the other free agents that are on the Saints docket. And sometimes those free agents coincide with other free agents, and what do you know? We might just be talking about, say, Jarvis Landry or somebody like that. Just so happen to run into you, and just because you have George Johnson as your client, maybe Jarvis Landry's your client too.
Yeah, I think that's in the NFLPA and agent convention there.
Yes.
Or not convention, big annual meeting.
Yes.
So every agent in the business is there, and it's just this free wheeling meetings. There's backroom deals cut. I remember distinctly the Dallas Cowboys tour bus being parked outside one of the bars late at night, and you'd see all kinds of stuff going on. Who knows if there are agents going on there or other people going on there. It's just a crazy scene. There's nothing like the Combine.
Like St. Elmo's Steakhouse, you just walk into the bar area all the time, and people are lurking around there, and it's I think
love that place.
If you're in Indianapolis and you want to open up a pop-up bar for a week, that's the week to do it. Forget like a Final Four or a Super Bowl. Open up a pop-up bar during the week of the Combine every year. You can do it every year because it keeps coming back and coming back. So you could do that every year, and you'd make bank. And maybe Jerry Jones and Roger Goodell. I don't know if Goodell's gonna be there. Maybe they could fight it out since Goodell's trying to take money from Jerry Jones. Who knows? Never know.
Yeah, I think we're going to see some trades either go down this week at the Combine, or the seeds of those trades will be planted like we saw where they were being sown a year ago with Malcolm Butler. I think there's going to be a lot of trade talk because the free agent market's not that good, and the positions is not very good. Now, if you need a quarterback, it looks pretty good. There's some other positions, but if you're in the market for, say, an offensive lineman, there's really not a lot of offensive linemen in this draft other than Quentin Nelson, maybe a handful. I think I read somewhere that this could be this class could have the fewest offensive linemen drafted in the history of the NFL draft. So if you need an offensive lineman, maybe you're in the market for a trade. Maybe you start talking at this Combine.
And you look at the talk of the Combine is likely going to be at quarterback because there are potentially 4 quarterbacks that could go in the top 10, 5 that go in the first round. And Mike Mayock, NFL Network, of course, big-time draft guru, and also does some color commentating for some games. But he had his marathon pre-Combine conference call yesterday. We're going to play some interesting sound bites from him as hour number 2 goes on. But as far as the quarterbacks are concerned, one of the most interesting quotes that he gave was that Wyoming quarterback Josh Allen saying that he hasn't seen an arm like this in 10-plus years, and comparing his arm strength to one Jamarcus Russell. I don't know if I'd ever want to be compared to Jamarcus Russell.
Not true. And one thing.
Are you sure?
And one thing I would like to be compared to Jamarcus Russell. His bank account after he got signed.
After he got signed. Would
after
you
he
like
got
to compare
signed.
it right now?
No.
Well,
I want that money.
And his arm strength. You'd want to be compared. I mean, his arm strength was remarkable.
It was incredible.
So, but that doesn't. Where'd that get him? I mean, that's the point of arm strength. I love when people ride on Drew Brees and he can't get the ball deep. Who cares? Who cares?
But he can get it deep.
If he can't throw it through a barn door, what does that get you?
I always remember Jamarcus Russell for this cannon arm, Kyle Bowler for this cannon arm. It got him to be a top 10 pick. Where does that get you?
Yeah,
exactly.
It's silly. It's so overrated, the whole arm strength stuff.
So what you're saying is after that quote came out during his during the interview, the teleconference, when people immediately just scoffed and raised their eyebrow, being like, "Oh, is this what we're going to do? You're going to compare Josh Allen to Jamarcus Russell?"
Or maybe Josh Allen and his representative said, "Oh no."
Fair. It's like, oh, dang it.
But there's question marks, and the quarterbacks are going to be question marks as you figure teams way up high in the draft are going to need one. And who's going to go where? Is Josh Allen number 1, or is he going to fall to 15? I think there's an element to that. And we've seen this happen in drafts past, a la the Jamarcus Russell draft. The debate, there was only 2 quarterbacks you were debating then. It was Jamarcus Russell and Brady Quinn, and neither one of them panned out.
Well, the criticism I've seen on Josh Allen, I think it's pretty valid, is that he does not perform particularly well against the stiff competition. When Wyoming played good teams, he really struggled, and I think that's always a bad sign. You like to see somebody raise their level of competition when they play raise their level of performance when they play tough competition, and I haven't seen that historically from Josh Allen. That would be a red flag for me, personally, if I were scouting him.
Now, do you think he throws? Because, I mean, obviously we heard in the break
Sam Darnold's not.
Sam Darnold's not. So it makes you wonder, how many of these guys do you think are going to throw at the combine that aren't, like, projected very highly as comparatively to some of those guys opting out and waiting to their pro days on their school campuses?
Well, Josh Allen can lean back on that he threw at the Senior Bowl and went through all that all week. Now, are there question marks around him? I think Sam Darnold, of the quarterbacks that are in, say, the top 10 talk, he might be the safest quarterback. So maybe he feels that way. Maybe Josh Allen feels like he's got something to prove. And every year it's different of quarterbacks who throw and don't. Some years you see Goff and Wentz throw. Other years you might not see any of the top quarterbacks throw. So it's kind of a crapshoot. You don't really know. But another quarterback that was at the Senior Bowl, and in NFL.com, Chad Reuter, he had a 4-round mock draft that got published today. He has the Saints in the 3rd round going with Richmond's Kyle Lauletta. Now, Jeff is ready to do handsprings and ready to do cartwheels in the sand because he is high on at least the Saints taking a good look at Kyle Lauletta. Let's hear what Mike Mayock had to say about Kyle Lauletta and the first-round quarterbacks.
He's an interesting guy and had a really good – the Senior Bowl has propelled a lot of quarterbacks in the last 15 years. Not necessarily just first-round guys, but other guys. And I think he opened some eyes at the Senior Bowl. It's a very solid, does everything well, maybe does not have any one elite trait, but does everything pretty well. Case Keenum reminds me of that a little bit, those kind of traits when he came out. So I think he kind of went from an afterthought to somebody that could legitimately be a 3rd or 4th round quarterback in the NFL. As far as the quarterbacks that could go in the 1st round, I think you're looking at Darnold, Allen, Rosen, Baker Mayfield, and the wild card in this whole thing for me is Lamar Jackson, and I think Mason Rudolph from Oklahoma State is I don't think he's going there, but I have him in the second round, Damo, but the way things are going in today's NFL, who knows?
Interesting perspective, Mason Rudolph. I've seen some draft gurus say he's their best quarterback on the board. It's almost in the eye of the beholder. And you also, at this point in time, let's be real honest, when you're reading mock drafts and you're reading draft rankings, you flip players so people will come back and read them. It's just part of it when you're in this, because by the end, it comes pretty consensus rather than having, say, Kyle Lauletta is the number 2 quarterback. Let's shock the world. Oh, now it's April 22nd. Oh, never mind. He might be 6th or 7th.
Yeah, and look, I think this quarterback class, there's nobody that stands out as truly above everyone else. I think you could find flaws. This is the part of the player procurement phase where everybody starts picking players apart, identifying every little weakness and flaw that they can find. It's just part of the deal. We're going to go through that over the next 2-3 months where players all their warts are exposed by the 24-hour coverage of the NFL draft, which has become like a second NFL season, frankly. It's all starting right now with the Combine. I know it kind of started at the Senior Bowl, but it mainly starts here where you get the whole draft class.
Yeah, absolutely. And, should I start it now?
What's that?
Prop bets! We found some prop bets on the NFL Scouting Combine. Anything to bet on, you can do it.
If you're a degenerate, this is the show for you.
Sometimes. Some days.
Mostly.
Let's hear them.
All right. You ready?
Yeah, bring it.
Okay. Well, now I've got to find them. You put me on the spot. Let me find them here real quick.
Technically, you put yourself on the spot because you were so.
You guys
he was amped up to talk about it yesterday when he found it.
You guys could have told me no.
Morning.
We're not into it.
Well, we're not giving people what they want.
While you're looking,
I found them.
Right.
I found them.
Okay, go ahead.
I found them. Okay, this is according to Bet DSI Sportsbook, which I've got an email, so I guess these prop bets exist. All right, so guy with the best odds for the number 1 overall pick right now is still Sam Darnold, followed by Josh Rosen, Saquon Barkley, Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield, and you put the rest. The quarterback with the highest Wonderlic score. Are you ready? Favorite is Josh Allen, followed by Josh Rosen, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson's 40 time over-under at 4.35 seconds. That's the favorite as opposed to the under. They've even got Saquon Barkley's 40-yard dash time. The over-under is at 4.37. The favorite is the over. Darius Geis, his 40-yard dash time. The over-under is at 4.38. Over is the favorite there. Calvin Ridley, his 40-yard dash time. The over is the over-under is 4.42, and that's even. So that's basically even money. Dante Jackson, I told you there would be a prop bet on Dante Jackson because people assume he's going to run the fastest time in the entire combine. 4.28 seconds. The favorite is the over, so people don't think he's going to eclipse. At least the odds makers don't feel like he's going to eclipse 4.28 seconds.
What are the fastest combine times ever?
I got it right here. John Ross, 4.22, and that got him to catching he might have caught 3 passes last year for Cincinnati.
You think people would learn?
He was drafted ahead of Marshawn Lattimore, just saying. Wasn't he last year?
I don't know. Was he? I don't know. Was he ahead of him?
I forget now. Yeah, John Ross was a rookie. I think he was taken 9th overall, I'd like to say. Because there was a run on wide receivers. I got to look now.
It's craziness.
There was a run on wide receivers, am I wrong? And that helped Lattimore slip? Or maybe I'm just totally making that up. Yep, 9th overall pick last year. So he was drafted 2 spots ahead of Marshawn Lattimore.
And that's why the Bengals are the Bengals.
Exactly. Exactly. So, all right, let's take a break right here on the show. I got my prop bet fix out the way. Jeff talked about ponies yesterday, so now we're even for the week.
And now let's come back to the Kyle Lauletta thing because I want to explain why I'm high on him. It's not necessarily that I think he's going to be this superstar. I think he fits the Saints quarterback prerequisites. That's my point.
We'll do that when we come back. We'll also talk about the challenge of evaluating first-round wide receivers. Mike Mayock talked about that, about who might be good at linebacker as far as off-the-ball linebacker and coverage. The top wide receivers, who the Saints, you never know, they might be in play for that at 27, given who might be on the board. And our own Herbie Teopia asks Mike Mayock about the Saints and the tight ends in the draft, which people are paying as a big spot of need. So we'll talk about that throughout the show. So coming back, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. We're Dunc and Holder.
Welcome to paradise.
Hi, Eric Asher, host of Inside New Orleans.
Hey, what are we doing?
Oh, crap. I forgot about the tickets.
What are we doing?
Talking everything.
A radio show.
Am I calling Herbie? Or am
No. He asked Mike Mayock a question.
I get it now.
Yes. All right, I got to give away these tickets. I forgot.
All right. I'll come back with the Tulane theme song.
Okay.
That way you'll recognize it.
Yes, so I won't fall off the map.
All right, 2 minutes.
He was so geeked about prop bets.
I got too excited about prop bets. No prop bets.
That would make watching the combat more exciting.
Go!
Money on Darius Geis's 40 times.
Yeah.
I don't care, Jax. Tear up your hamstring. Run. Your whole career's ruined, but I won $10.
Carry an assault rifle again, and that she's deeply sorry for
Come on, 4.28
from some random
decision coming in the wake
offshore
of the mass shooting
book
in
and betting site.
17 people
Turks and
shot
Caicos.
by a gunman using an AR-15 rifle. The Kardashian family is taking part in a TV game show. Kim Kardashian revealing on Snapchat that the Kardashian clan, including husband Kanye West, will appear in an episode of Celebrity Family Feud. She said she'll be playing on Team West, which will compete against Team Kardashian, comprised of her mother.
Put my head in a meat grinder.
Sister Kylie Jenner getting big thanks from her rapper boyfriend Travis
big
Scott
thanks
after the birth of their daughter. The 20-year-old
Clay Travis said
showing off a new Ferrari
some of the dumbest fans in the world are Kentucky Wildcat
Scott
fans.
as a push present.
This is what he's looking up during the break.
Thanks, Jeff.
Shocking. This is what he's looking up during the break.
I'm just pointing it out.
Robin Thicke,
A completely impartial guy has no partiality whatsoever.
Clay Travis is the trolliest of all trolls.
No.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
He is.
I'm telling you, he has no partiality in this. Brian used to work for us, worked at the Times-Picayune, worked at the Boston Globe, did a book on this high school in Kentucky basketball, Scott County, went and followed them for a year, lived in Georgetown, Kentucky for a year, came back and told me the worst human beings on the planet. Kentucky basketball team. Had zero history. So I'm just telling you. All U of L UK. All proven facts from impartial people.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Dave's playing the Tulane fight song on purpose, so I wouldn't forget. We've got Tulane baseball tickets to give away, and there's a special touch to this. Tulane's going to be hosting Lamar tonight, first pitch at 6:30, and Todd Grappanini is giving away 2 pairs of tickets. It means these are good primo seats, like behind home plate. So if you want to get a pair of tickets, we're giving away 2 pairs of tickets. Just give us a call, 504-260-1280. Look, Tulane coming off of a rough weekend up in Ole Miss. They got swept, so good thing they swept Wright State to start. We talked about how they have no layups. Lamar is no layup either in a midweek game. Exactly. So you'll have a chance to go catch the Green Wave tonight if you want to. So give us a call, 504-260-1280. You'll be able to pick up those tickets if you want them at will call at Turchin Stadium. So Todd's personal tickets he wants to give away. Oh, and by the way, we didn't touch on it much yesterday. Good weekend for LSU baseball. They were able to take 2 of 3 from Texas. Played very well on Friday night against a legitimate Friday night starter that could probably be a Friday night starter for any SEC team. So good bounce back there, even though they didn't look great on Sunday. But even for his pulmonary, he's typically hard on his team. Basically chalked it up to it was just one of those days. Now they're going to have to figure out some pitching going forward, but at least a good weekend against a good opponent, and so we'll see where they go going forward. They got some midweek games. We'll catch up with some of those later on in the week. But let's continue our NFL draft chatter. Jeff, you wanted to continue jumping in on Kyle Lauletta. He's the intriguing quarterback from Richmond. Played pretty well during the week of the Senior Bowl, kind of opened some eyes. And just, we tease you your love affair for, say, Jimmy Garoppolo. Of course, that love affair was pretty valid, that you wanted him to be with the Saints. But no, you're high on the Kyle Lauletta train. And why don't you explain why that is that's a truth?
Well, I mean, here's the review you get on Kyle Lauletta. This is from NFL.com and their scouts. One of the top FCS quarterbacks in the country, carries a strong football genetics background. Father Joe is a quarterback at Navy. Older brother Trey played center at Bucknell. His grandfather played football at Delaware. Heralded by scouts as a team leader and elected team captain twice. Production saw a major spike over the last 2 seasons. Uses eyes to move linebackers and safeties out of his passing lanes on slants and curls. Won't automatically dump throws down to backs. Willing to let the route combination progress while climbing and sliding away from heat. Footwork is smooth in play action. Gets it out early and quick on timing throws. Spins a tight spiral. Able to throw accurately to intermediate targets on the move. Uses excessive trajectory to get additional distance on deep throws. Overall, Lauletta has decent accuracy and mechanics to work with, but his lack of arm strength could limit his throws. Who's this starting to sound like?
I don't want to say it, but you know what I'm thinking.
Right, but it's very similar also to Garoppolo. These players that come from these smaller schools, I think personally, Sean Payton takes a liking to him. I think he loved Tony Romo. Came out of Eastern Illinois. Garoppolo, obviously the same university, and he's taken a shine to this kid, I think, because of his background and some of the things, the intangibles that Peyton looks for in his quarterback room. This kid has.
I think of uses trajectory too much to get the ball downfield. I don't know why I think of this. I do know why. I think of Kellen Moore. Remember the Boise State quarterback?
Yes.
Who is now, I think he's a coach for Dallas. I think he's no longer the backup quarterback anymore. Now he might be a coach.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he's a coach for the he's like the quality assistant / quarterback coach in Dallas.
Might be the quarterback's coach in Dallas. He threw the ball like it was a shot put. It would take 30 minutes for the deep ball to get
that doesn't
to
work.
Get anything.
You got to have some arm strength.
And Josh Heupel. Remember the Oklahoma quarterback?
Now that guy had no arm strength.
Exactly. I hear that and I think, whee!
What was the quarterback a few years ago that came out of Oklahoma State that was like older?
Brandon Weeden.
That's the guy I think of too. Kind of, these system quarterbacks that come out of these spread systems sometimes. Josh Heupel being a prime example. What was the Heisman Trophy winner from Oklahoma?
Jason White.
Oh, yeah. Boy. I don't think you make a comparison. The things that I like to see in quarterbacks like the ones we're talking about that come from the smaller schools, it was the same argument a lot of people used for Steve McNair. Steve McNair came out of Alcorn State, and a lot of people said, well, what's his competition like? Well, I mean, look at what he did against the competition he played. And I think I've told this story before on the show. At that time, I was covering the Tennessee Titans when they drafted Steve McNair, and the other quarterback that year was Kerry Collins that came out. And I remember asking Floyd Reese after the draft why they picked Steve McNair over Kerry Collins, who played at Penn State in the Big Ten.
Rocket arm.
Yes, and I said, a lot of people would question what Steve McNair would do in the Big Ten against that competition. He said, well, we look at it the opposite. What would Kerry Collins do if you stuck him at Alcorn State, surrounded by the same players that Steve McNair had? And I think that's a very valid point. Not very many people look at it from that perspective. They always want to look at it the other way, and this is what evaluators have to do all the time. What would Josh Allen do if you stuck him at Eastern Illinois or at Richmond, where Kyle Lauletta is at? You have to look at it from all perspectives, I think.
Now, I'm mentioning Kellen Moore and Josh Heupel, those guys were 7th-round undrafted guys. I mean, Kyle Lauletta is a legitimate mid-round prospect. I don't think that's going to change. He might jump if he does well at the combine, and if he does well at pro days and such, he may rise in the draft. So that's just what I think of when I hear ball's got to be lofted. I think of Danny Werfel. It was painful to watch him throw a ball.
Well, but here's the thing with
minus the backwards helmet thing.
With the Saints situation at quarterback right now, they obviously like Taysom Hill. We know they have some high prospects for him. They think he could be the quarterback of the future. They being Sean Payton. But the point is, if you
it might just be him. It might just be solo.
If you draft Kyle Lauletta, though, and you're the Saints, you can take your time and develop him. He can develop arm strength. He can develop a lot of these things. You don't need him to be the guy tomorrow. He's the developmental guy that you hope becomes Jimmy Garoppolo in 4 years. That's what you're thinking when you take him, as opposed to, say, the Cleveland Browns. If they drafted him, they're wanting him to be the guy right away. I don't think anybody's doing that with Kyle Lauletta.
Just bring Garrett Grayson back. Same guy. Jeff is speechless now. Jeff's look just said it all.
He just shook his head and was like,
I think it was he was thinking an acronym that involves probably an expletive that we're not supposed to say on here.
No, I mean, Garrett Grayson is what he is. He's probably a backup quarterback in the NFL. Is his ceiling
at best? Yeah.
Yeah, that's his ceiling.
Yeah, I would agree. All right, let's take a break right here on the show. We got more sound bites from Mike Mayock we want to play. And they're all of positions I think the Saints could be looking at some point in the draft. If a wide receiver is available at 27, I think they have to take a look at it given what could be available. Tight end is certainly a hot topic. Linebacker, I think they could look that way. So we'll hear what Mike Mayock had to say on those subjects and more coming up next here. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. I'm Duncan Holder. But I do have this quote on what position, because we're talking
your
about
forecast on Sports 1280 New Orleans.
He's saying some of the positions that are the deepest on defense.
Unbound.org.
Defensive
From the Fox 8 Weather Center,
like
I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz. Today, a partly to mostly cloudy day during the afternoon. A slim chance of rain at 20%. High temp in the upper 70s.
Really
now tonight, overnight lows a little bit warmer and muggy, mid to upper 60s. And tomorrow for Wednesday should be a dry day, but much warmer. High of 84. Thursday, slight chance of rain at 30% with a front in the upper 70s. And then we cool down for Friday with more sunshine coming back. From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz with your weather forecast.
In places around the world, there are elders.
If we had a bow tie on, it would spin around right now.
Sponsoring Elders is Unbound in helping a brighter tomorrow to one person who has helped us all build a better world.
I love it.
At unbound.org.
Yeah, I was thinking about you, Clyde. Last night, remember I got told Wobble Wobble Will. I said,
City, where it's always been. Is a
Suns
New Orleans
come back and
tradition.
win this, I'm calling it sick tomorrow.
Calling it sick tomorrow. I'm not sure
you're going to be insufferable.
Not going to be.
Old style New
Jeff.
Orleans food.
Yeah.
How was Monday night?
Atmosphere.
Insufferable.
And some of the best seafood in the city.
Wobble, wobble,
always New Orleans.
Yeah, it was.
AD was inspired.
Always
absolutely.
He lighted it up.
Always,
he saw us tweet at him for his birthday, and he's like,
Thursday,
yeah,
March
I'm going to do this for him.
5:30 to 8.
Do I dare
Southeast
project
Louisiana is
a
holding
Louisville
its
player
18th
to
annual
in the first
Gumbo
round?
Cook-Off.
No, although I think the
Jair Alexander would
Come
be a
hungry
good
for
fit.
gumbo and desserts from some of the best restaurants
He's awful
in
good.
town.
I was going to say, depending on how much time we had, the debate around Lamar Jackson's quarterback credentials was very hot last week.
Oh,
really?
Oh, yeah. Because, I mean, of course, naturally, it was, you know, black quarterback, blah, blah, blah. And then literally the amount of people that came back and put up, like, Louisville plays, like really intricate Louisville plays that he was able to run. It's like, oh, yeah.
Here's what I think. If I were coming into the NFL, we could do a whole show on this one day.
And all 31 players, 18
I
draft
would
picks
take
Monday's deadline.
guys like Lamar Jackson. I would have
last night highlighted by
a
the
team
Flyers, 1-0
of Lamar
shootout
Jackson.
win over Montreal.
I would have
In the
Jackson.
NBA, Anthony
Who are some other guys
Davis'
like that?
the Pelicans win their
Terrell Pryor.
The Suns
I would have
Cordell
five,
Stewart,
and I would line them all up.
Davis dropped
Have one of them could be a different quarterback on every snap. You could use the quarterbacks like the Eagles did when they threw it. Right. Julian Edelman. Have 5 multifaceted guys that can throw and catch and run, and then you don't all of a sudden the quarterback becomes a weapon like the way Nick Foles was, but now you got a real weapon.
Yeah, real weapon.
And all of a sudden,
knows what to do.
defenses, the way they've defended the NFL, would be completely, they wouldn't know what to do.
Good point.
Because you could run the ball, you could pass. I think that's what's going to happen one day. Now, it might be 20 years, but I would do it right now. Turn it on its ear.
The uncensored talk about your team's sports.
I'll write that column.
New Orleans.
I like it.
Welcome back to the show. Let's hear more from Mike Mayock, of course, NFL Network draft guru. We've been talking about a lot of the positions that aren't so plentiful as far as Saints concerns. Edge rusher doesn't look that good. Some other spots don't look great. Two spots that Mike Mayock mentioned that would be actually have some depth on the defensive side is the interior defensive line. I think that's actually a place where the Saints might actually go look. I mean, you could certainly, if someone is a first-round guy and you go there, you could certainly plug and play him right away, because if you look at the defensive tackle, I'm sure the Saints are good with what they had with Tyler Davison, Sheldon Rankins, David Onyemata. You could use a fourth, no doubt about that. And could you upgrade at the nose? Probably, possibly, I don't know, but you can't ignore that position. So that's a spot where they might look. And then off the ball linebacker, that's basically not an edge guy, not like a tweener guy, outside linebacker, pass rusher. And Mike Mayock actually went into a little bit of detail about that. So let's hear what Mike Mayock had to say about some of these coverage linebackers.
I think we're going to get 3 or 4 in the first round, which would be Tremaine Edmonds, Roquan Smith, perhaps Leighton Vander Esch, who I'm kind of intrigued by, and perhaps Rashaan Evans. After that, I think Uchenna Nwosu from USC is an intriguing guy. He was primarily an edge rusher, is probably going to have to do what Hassan Reddick did a year ago out of Temple, which is stand up, play off-the-ball linebacker, and then perhaps be used in the sub-packages as kind of a joker rusher. And Nwosu is really interesting. Jerome Baker's probably from Ohio State is probably going to go to the combine and run 4.5 at 225 pounds. He's a physical specimen. He can run. Some of his tape's inconsistent. I didn't like the Iowa tape at all, but I think there were some mitigating circumstances. He can fly. Darius Leonard, South Carolina State. Another sideline-to-sideline player, good in the pass game. This Fred Warner from BYU, same thing. He can run. I think they're the logical off-the-ball linebackers for the first 2, 3, 4 rounds.
I think linebacker is a spot they could look, and this draft is going to be tricky for the Saints, just because they don't have a second-round pick. So what do? You gotta, and then you're at 27. You kind of have to wait to see who's around. You can't say, oh well, we're thinking someone like Marshawn Lattimore is going to fall there. No, you're almost to the point where if you have a guy with a first-round grade, you take him at 27. Could one of these linebackers fall? Rashaan Evans from Alabama, could he fall? Yes, even though you could look and say, all right, if the Saints had to play tomorrow, they'd have starting linebackers, but would you want to maybe upgrade, get a younger guy? Maybe he's better than Craig Robertson. Maybe he's better than Manti Te'o. Alex Anzalone, you're still trying to see what you have with him. But I think that is a possibility, more at 27 maybe than – I mean, somewhere down the line you could. But at 27, I think that's something you got to think about.
I think they employ the exact same strategy that they did a year ago with that second first-round pick, which they selected at 31. It's only 4 spots away. And you just take the best player that drops them. They had Ryan Ramczyk graded as a first-round talent. And that's what I think they're going to do. I think they're going to take the best guy on their board, whatever position it is, because I think they have enough needs. I don't think there's one position they wouldn't use except maybe running back. I don't think they're taking a running back at 27 by any standard, unless it's Saquon Barkley drops to them.
They're not taking Darius Geis at 27.
No.
They're not going to do it.
But maybe anywhere else, any other position. Although I did think it's interesting, Mayock, I don't know if you got the sound, but I know it occurred in...
Well, it was 108 minutes of sound, so the percentages...
Right.
I've got three sound bites.
He went off a little bit on a tangent about the recent success or lack thereof of first-round wide receivers.
I have that.
Yeah,
wow.
So let's hear that.
That is like total luck of the draw.
Nice.
It's 2 minutes. It's a 2-minute long soundbite, so you're right. He does go off a little bit on that, and, of course... The Saints, their number one wide receiver is a second-round pick, Michael Thomas, and they traded away the last first-round pick wide receiver they had was Brandon Cook. So let's hear what Mike Mayock had to say on the challenge of evaluating first-round wide receivers.
It's a great question because I think the wide receiver position since the 2014 class, you go back to that class and Watkins, Mike Evans, Odell Beckham, Cook, and Kelvin Benjamin were the 5 first-round guys, all of whom played at a high level quickly. Since that draft class, there's been 13 first-round wide receivers, and I think only 1 Pro Bowl, and that was Amari Cooper. And the rest of them have struggled to have any kind of production. So I think there are really 3 things. One is the lack of quality press coverage in college football. It's hard to watch wideouts get challenged realistically at the line of scrimmage on tape. Number 2, it's a whole different conversation about the complexities of NFL defenses versus what a lot of these kids are seeing in college football. And number 3, I'm getting to the point where I'm kind of going, there were 3 first-round wide receivers a year ago, Corey Davis, Mike Williams, John Ross. All 3 of them had hints of durability issues. All 3 of them struggled to get on the field last year because of injury. The production was way down. So I'm kind of going, on top of everything else, we need to be more aware of any kind of history of injury with the wide receiver class, and also, what does it take to be successful? And I think what you're starting to see are guys like Juju Smith-Schuster, Devin Funchess, some of those kind of 6'3", 6'4", 220-pound wide receivers that are physical and tough with great ball skills. They seem to be the kind of guys that can come in, and I would throw Cooper Kupp in there, and compete immediately. Now, wide receiver this year, you mentioned Calvin Ridley. I think he and Christian Kirk are the 2 best route runners in this class. Neither of them has great size, but they're both fast and quick. They run great routes. I think Ridley's challenge is going to be the complexities of defensive schemes in the NFL.
Interesting.
Absolutely. And he's right. There's only 1 wide receiver in the past 4 or 5 years of the first round, since maybe the Odell Beckham, Brandon Cooks, that draft, to be a Pro Bowl guy, and it was Amari Cooper. And he's slipped.
He's slipped big time the last year or so. So, yeah, I think it raises some questions of would the Saints invest in a first-round wide receiver, even though we know they did it with Cooks and it worked out pretty well. But do you do that, especially in this system where you already have a number 1? I mean, Mike Thomas is the number 1. You don't really need – I mean, you're looking at a role-playing wide receiver at this point.
And you're talking about, say, Ridley and Kirk as far as being not too big and quick. Maybe you could have them as a slot receiver. I have one more soundbite, and we'll take a break right here on the show. Let's hear what Mike Mayock had to say on – and he mentions 3 wide receivers as maybe the 1, 2, 3. Calvin Ridley from Alabama, Christian Kirk from Texas A&M, and Cortland Sutton from SMU. Let's hear what Mike Mayock had to say on those 3 guys.
Ridley and Kirk are somewhat similar in size. They're probably – I like them both in the slot, although I think Ridley might be a little bit faster, but I'm anxious to see them both at the combine speed-wise. But I think Ridley can play outside, but he will become predominantly a slot receiver in the NFL. Same with Kirk. They both run tremendous routes. They both have really good hands, and they're very tough catching the football with good run after catch. Christian Kirk adds some value in the return game. Cortland Sutton is a completely different animal. 6'4", 215, 220, high-level production, but a lot of it's outside the numbers. Keep in mind, there are a lot of ways to separate in today's NFL. We used to talk about quickness and speed and route running. There's another way to separate now, and that's with size. Back shoulder fades, the outside the number throws. He's mostly kind of a fade, stop, pitch, and slant player right now. There's not much of a route tree. I'm anxious to see how fast he is. Can he be a Mike Evans type player? Mike Evans ran 4.53 at the combine at 230 pounds. Or is he more of a 4.58 type of guy? I think Cortland Sutton is really going to be an intriguing guy to watch at the combine.
Sutton sounds like a guy the Saints don't need. The other two might be options. But you get to where the Saints, and let's take a break right here on the show, and you'll hear from Mike Mayock's thoughts on the Saints and tight end in the final segment. But the Saints at 27, I think you're right. Best player on the board. Say if Ryan Ramczyk wasn't there at 32, I could have seen the Saints going and taking Michael Thomas there.
Yep.
So if you're at 27 and one of these guys can come in and be your number 3 receiver, and depending on what you're thinking with Brandon Coleman and what you're thinking with Willie Snead, if there's a position there and if the fit fits, I think at 27, you're more apt to do it there than taking one unless he was Julio Jones way up high in the draft.
I don't think you eliminate any position just because in recent years some of these guys haven't worked out. It's every year you look at in a vacuum. Otherwise, you would pass on Julio Jones.
Right.
Come on.
Exactly. So, all right, one more segment here on the show. Come on back. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
Join Corey Johnson on The Neutral Ground, 4 till 6.
I think when you come to The Neutral Ground, you can expect sports, news, politics, food, music, whatever's going on.
Mandinas.
1280.
What's Graf's deal? You see, he's text. Jeez, what's going on here?
What?
You have to be excited about Katie's.
Oh, I just saw it.
Yeah.
Oh, he must know him, huh?
I guess.
Sports, but shouldn't we be talking about your award-winning Sunday brunch?
I'd rather talk about the Saints and the Pels.
How about your award-winning?
Right.
Yeah.
How about them Saints? I admit you have a great
Chaos.
take on local sports, but what about Katie's award-winning menu?
Okay, folks, I invite you to dine at Katie's. Eric and I don't have to brag about the food at Katie's. The food speaks for itself.
Katie's open 7 days a week in the heart of Mid-City at 3701 out.
Heart of Mid-City.
New Orleans, the addiction treatment program you deserve. Long Branch Wellness. It's highly confidential, affordable, convenient, and completely outpatient. We can help you feel normal again, and nobody needs to know but you. Call Long Branch at 504-635-3535.
Jimmy John's, Freaky Fast, Freaky Fresh.
I'm calling
Yeah,
because
I'd go
I saw
from-
one of your delivery persons today,
from
and he was
covering
totally
very little
naked.
basketball
Ma'am,
to
I
all of a
sincerely
sudden
want to
Pelicans
apologize for anything.
tonight,
Naked right there on the
UNO
street.
Ma'am, we're
Wednesday
doing all we
night,
can to-
And I say
Tulane
it's
Thursday
almost
night.
on time.
I know, and I'm
Gonna
going
get to see them all.
The human
Maybe
I need to go down to LSU.
Yeah, you
whether-
picked the
Crystal
last
King
week of the
program.
Okay.
furious season to go and watch these teams
Actually, ma'am, it's our
before
meats that are
conference
all
tournament
natural.
starts.
Our meats are all natural.
You don't want to go cover the Sun Belt?
Maybe I should go cover Nichols.
To cover the Sun Belt,
At least you'll be covering a winner.
They're playing at
I'd go cover that.
playing at the arena.
Details
I mean,
about
not
an
the arena.
upgrade.
You know, like the
Lakefront
arena.
Arena.
Bloomberg says Apple
That's
Sun
what
Belt
it's
tournaments?
Yeah, the Sun Belt tournament's in New Orleans.
This year,
I didn't know
the
that.
largest iPhone ever, an
I only know
upgraded
'cause I
handset
saw
the
the
same size as
billboards.
the current iPhone 10.
What's that all
a
about?
less expensive model with some
Well,
of
because
the
the Sun Belt's
flagship
located here in
phones
the
on
city.
features.
What's up with that?
Apple is
I
looking
know,
to
but we haven't
appeal
had
to
the
growing
tournament yet,
number
have
of users
It
who want
just
to
started the last few
multitasking
years. It's
aspects of
here
so-called
now.
phablets, while
Okay.
also
I mean,
offering
the
a more
arena,
affordable
I mean, it's not
version
being
of the
used,
iPhone
so-
10.
No, it's a great arena for
DirecTV is
basketball.
offering
I
an
love
Apple
Lakefront.
TV 4K version
Perfect
with 32
size.
gigs of memory for $105.
I love
That's $74
good small
off the
arenas.
original.
I'll tell you how it is.
All you have to do is sign up for
You gonna be there?
prepaid months of
maybe.
DirecTV Now online
Why don't
streaming
you go? I'm
service.
going tomorrow night to the UNO
Energizer
game.
says it's going to
I'll be
release
there
a
too.
phone
Oh,
this
yeah?
year that will surprise focus
Yeah,
on
I'm
the
gonna be there.
battery.
I wanna
The
watch my boy
Energizer Power Max
Marvin
P16K
Beal.
Pro will last up to 5 days on one charge. Mashable says the phone is on the thick side, but does have high resolution, dual
Coming back.
print sensor. Tech Report, Larry Olson, NBC News Radio.
Dunc and Holder now. Eric Asher next at noon on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Welcome back to the show. Good show. Lively conversation, good insight. Missed any of it? Sports1280.com, NOLA.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube page, and of course Clyde's daily updates with his little spin on it. Usually not too bitter.
No, of course. There's no need for a bitter spin. Mostly
worked up earlier.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to write that.
He just wanted a utopia of everyone should just love everything.
And we'll see how many people disagree with me, and I'll be like, I don't care.
Kumbaya.
Exactly.
Sports kumbaya.
Spend your money on 0-82. It's entertaining. Now, that would be entertaining. 0-82.
Yeah, I mean, you think the Cleveland Browns fans weren't happy to at least be able to throw a parade in Cleveland after going 0-16?
Not the players.
Not the players. Yeah, they can hate it, but it don't matter because the fans do whatever they want, and I'm okay with that too.
Hey, here's a tweet from Mark Maskey that's interesting. The NFL Competition Committee, in an effort to boost scoring, might re-emphasize enforcement of illegal contact rules. Warning, King Crawley, warning.
Kid Crawley.
So now he'd be penalized really every play?
Maybe.
Brandon Browner, imagine if he'd be in the league still.
Oh, my goodness. We'd have some kind of record.
He already has the record.
Penalty off.
He'd break his own record.
And the other good news, the competition committee is seriously looking at eliminating going to the ground portion of the catch rule. Thank goodness.
They need to do something.
They need to eliminate that. That's the worst part of the rule.
Yes, exactly. It would eliminate a lot of the headaches, and maybe the Steelers would have been the number 1 seed, and it might have been an all Pennsylvania Super Bowl. But one more segment here. Want to keep continuing. It held this basically to keep you guys listening. Saints. Herbie Teope had a chance to ask NFL Network draft guru Mike Mayock about the hot position that's surrounding the Saints going into this draft and even free agency is tight end. Let's hear what Mike had to say about the Saints and the tight end position.
I mentioned earlier that I really like Hayden Hurst from South Carolina. He's 25 years old because he signed a baseball contract out of high school. But in addition to being able to catch the football, he puts effort into the run game. And knowing that, the funny thing about the Saints, I believe, is that, when they won their Super Bowl and everybody talks about Drew Brees in the pass game, they had a commitment to the physicality of the run game. And they still do. And that's because of Sean Payton and who he is. So if you're going to bring a tight end in at a high level, I think you've got to have a commitment to block in addition to just being a pass catcher. And I think that's Hayden Hurst. I think Goddard from South Dakota State, Gesicki from Penn State, and Mark Andrews from Oklahoma are all outstanding receiving options. None of them are primary blockers in the run game. At best, they're edge control on the backside. So if you wanted to go later and get just a pass catcher, you could look at a Troy Fumagalli from Wisconsin, who you could probably get in the 4th round. Chris Herndon is another guy from Miami I like who will block a little bit, but he's coming off an injury. There's a bunch of tight ends in this draft. 90% of them are pass only, receivers only. But there are a few, like a Will Dissly from Washington, who will stick his hand in the dirt and move people. But he doesn't have the same receiving skill. So every year we have the same conversation about college tight ends. There's only a few that will block, and then a bunch of receivers. And who fits what scheme the best. So if you look at a Zach Ertz in Philadelphia, I think that's what you're seeing with a Goddard, with a Gesicki, with a Mark Andrews, with a Troy Fumagalli. Those similar type guys, and I think could have a similar type impact.
I'm wondering if the Saints are in the market for someone who has both receiving and blocking skills. Of course, in a perfect world, if you were elite in both, you'd be probably a top 10 pick. But in the nature of the NFL, the way it is now, you're seeing the receiving tight ends go higher because, of course, this is a pass-happy league. But I found it interesting that he tabbed a 25-year-old tight end that the Saints might be interested in most. Now, do I like Mike's reasoning? Sure, because if you had a better Josh Hill, if he could receive better and he can also block, that's the ultimate one too. But at 25, is that what you're looking for? I'm not sure. And would he be someone you'd take in the 1st round? I'm not sure. Maybe if it's a third-round guy, I think that'd be okay. But the prospects, though, are interesting that most of the ones that he's mentioning are receiving tight ends like the Eric Ebrons of the world and, guys like that. Maybe Julius Thomas. Let's be honest. Colby Fleener, he's not a blocking tight end. He should be a receiving tight end.
Yeah, it looks to me like this is a good year to get a tight end in the draft and that there's different prospects at all different levels of the draft.
3 minutes, guys. 3 minutes.
There's first-round prospects late, kind of looks like late, and then there's second, third, fourth. Like you can get one that's going to fit your need maybe just about anywhere up and down the ladder, and I don't think the Saints are in the market to draft a tight end in the first round. I'll be surprised unless it's somebody they have graded in the top 15 and he drops to 27. Then maybe you do it because he's the best player available. I just don't know if there's one in this draft that would be graded that high.
I don't know enough about this Dallas Goedert to say, wow, I think they'll pass and wow, or they should go get him. I don't know. I think we'll probably start learning more about him now. Maybe they know because I'm sure they've watched film on him in this, but as far as for you and me trying to project something, I don't think I know enough about the guy, to be honest. He's not O.J. Howard. We didn't see him every week at Alabama. So we don't know if this guy is legit or if his numbers are gigantic because he's a bigger guy and basically can play wide receiver for FCS.
Well, this kid was named after the Dallas Cowboys, so I think some fans it would take a little, I think, warming to that.
No, I think, and it would take a lot because, the transitive property. Let's see. Named him after Dallas. Sean Payton really wants to go coach the Dallas Cowboys, so he's going to do it, and then he's going to leave, and he's going to go meet up with Jarrett. See what I did there, Clyde?
Wow, that was really well done.
Transitive property, right there on the
string right there was just amazing.
That's what you get from a columnist's mind here.
Pluck it. I enjoy it. But I mean, the South Dakota State offense from at least what I've seen in person, because I've seen it in person because I actually came to play at Nichols once, and it was like, wait, why do we schedule these guys?
Only
actually
Clyde would have seen this.
But
that's why we have Clyde, man. He's got all these undervalued
trips. He goes where we don't go.
Yeah, exactly. I go to the places the depth chart don't go. But South Dakota State's offense is known for being a offense that usually has talented running backs that go for a lot of yardage. But at the same time are also known for being pass happy because you're in a league with North Dakota State, guys like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's a guy that maybe you bring on and say, we can teach him blocking. But if he can catch in the red zone, we'll teach him everything he needs to know about blocking.
Well, we're going to start learning more about these prospects. You're going to start hearing the rumor mill go crazy as the NFL scouting combine is going to get really running today and tomorrow. And check out all of our coverage at NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune because Josh Katzenstein and Herbie Teope will be blanketing up in Indianapolis. So great show. Eric Asher coming up next. Tomorrow, Wobble Wobble Wednesday, which means Will Guillory will hop on and we'll talk Pelicans and all kinds of other goodies. So come on back on a Wednesday right here. Sports1280NOLA.com and the iHeartRadio app. Duncan Holder.
The more I read about this kid, the more I like him.
He looks intriguing.
Actor Kevin
Thanks,
Smith,
bud.
the star of the...
All right, guys. Talk to you tomorrow.
Yo. Yeah, he looks like a player,
man. Alive. The 47-year-old tweeted
I mean,
from
if he was able to light up Nicholls
bed
State,
that he's
you know he's going to be
recovering
good.
from a massive heart
come on.
attack. He got sick between comedy shows in Glendale, California Sunday night and said if he hadn't canceled the second one and sought medical care, he'd be dead.
I don't even want to bring it up.
Don't bring it up. I had to go to the in-laws' house. And I had to go to the in-laws' house. And we got to the game late, and then it wasn't open.
Smith wrote and directed the movies Chasing Amy and Mallrats. Eating veggies. They found